How Judas Iscariot made arrangements with the chief priests to betray Jesus, drawn mainly from the Gospels of Matthew 26 verses 14 to 16, Mark 14 verses 10 to 11, and Luke 22 verses 1 to 6. The city of Jerusalem was full of tension. It was the time of Passover, and thousands had gathered. Among them, Jesus of Nazareth had been stirring hearts with his teaching, miracles, and claims of divine authority. But not everyone welcomed him. The chief priests and scribes, powerful religious leaders of the time, saw Jesus as a threat to their authority, their traditions, and their fragile alliance with Roman rulers. They had been looking for a way to silence him, to have him arrested and killed, but they feared the people, who saw Jesus as a prophet. They needed a way to seize him quietly, away from the crowds. And then came an unexpected offer, from within Jesus' own circle. Judas approaches the authorities. One of the 12, Judas Iscariot, secretly went to the chief priests. By this time, something had shifted in his heart. The Gospel of Luke says, "Then Satan entered Judas." He went to the chief priests and officers of the temple guard and discussed with them how he might betray Jesus, Luke 22 verses 3 to 4. The priests were delighted. One of Jesus' own disciples was offering to hand him over, not publicly, but in private. "What are you willing to give me if I deliver him to you?" Judas asked, Matthew 26 verse 15. They weighed out for him 30 pieces of silver, the price of a slave in Old Testament law, Exodus 21 verse 32, a grim symbol of how little they valued Jesus. Judas took the money. From that moment on, he looked for an opportunity to betray Jesus, a time when the crowds weren't around, and Jesus could be arrested quietly. The plan was set. The religious leaders had their inside man. Judas had his silver. The trap was ready, it only needed the right moment. That moment would come soon, in a quiet garden at night, with a kiss. The betrayal of Jesus by Judas. Chapter 213 to 217, Matthew 26, Mark 14, Luke 22, and John 18:80-16.
The evening was heavy with tension. Jesus and his 12 disciples had just shared the Passover meal, in an upper room in Jerusalem, what would later be called the Last Supper. During the meal, Jesus had spoken in a somber tone, predicting that one of his own would betray him. "Truly I tell you, one of you will betray me." The disciples were stunned. One after another, they asked, "Is it I, Lord?" Even Judas, the one who had already made arrangements with the chief priests, asked the same. Jesus answered him quietly, "You have said so." Later that night, after the meal, Jesus took his disciples to a quiet place, the Garden of Gethsemane, a grove of olive trees on the Mount of Olives. He asked them to keep watch and pray while he went off alone to pray, deeply troubled and sorrowful. Meanwhile, Judas Iscariot had slipped away into the night.
He went to the high priests, arranged the betrayal, and then returned to the place where Jesus and his sleeping companions lay. As he entered, angels miraculously took Jesus up through a window to the heavens, hiding him from mortal eyes. In confusion, the guards saw Judas now transformed in appearance and speech to resemble Jesus. Mistaking him for their quarry, they seized him instead. "You, Lord, are you come at last?" they exclaimed, believing Judas to be Jesus, only to be met with, "Now are you foolish, that know not me to be Judas Iscariot?" When the soldiers laid hands on him, the disciples awoke in terror and fled, including John, who escaped leaving his linen cloth behind. Judas was taken bound, mistaken entirely for Jesus. Thus, according to the Gospel of Barnabas, Judas was supernaturally transformed into Jesus' likeness, mistaken, and crucified in his place. Jesus is miraculously taken to heaven. Judas, not Jesus, was the one who suffered at the hands of the Romans, carrying a burden of confusion and betrayal far beyond mere intent.